I've been waiting on this one for a while. I'm so excited to talk about this. Let's go. Are you interested in watching a slice of life show about a high school girl? But by slice of life I also mean that this girl can see ghosts of people who have had their lives just like sliced out of them, and she's just trying her best not to give a flying frack about it. Our main character Miko Yotsuya is going through a really mundane life with her bestie by her side. The story starts with a young girl arriving in her apartment. She tries to turn on the lights but it doesn't work. The spooks are coming on early, folks. The microwave then suddenly turns on before turning off again, and the fridge opens up and a lady in red crawls out of it and towards the girl, who starts to understandably scream because holy well, turns out all of that was just part of a horror television program about actual protagonist enters the living room. Miko seems to be uninterested in most things, quite unlike her brother, who seems rather excited. The next morning, just as Miko wakes up and sees an owner struggling to hold back her donkey who's barking at no one but the trash, she then gets ready herself, just brushing her teeth, and sees a random handprint on her mirror. She said he's totally undisturbed and just wipes it off. Her mother and brother warned her to take an umbrella because it just might rain, but she says she'll be fine. Mika then gets to school and is excitedly greeted by her best friend Hannah as they talk about the keychains of their favorite characters. Another student tells them to get the hell out of their way. The student looks like she's about to say something, but she decides against it and leaves during class. The spooky stuff starts to get a lot more noticeable for Miko when she sees a ball just rolling on its own, especially because what the hell, her teacher then calls on her to read something from the book and the ball rolls back still on its own. During lunch, Miko and Hannah eat their meals together. Hannah mentions that she's really hungry and Miko points out that she's already had bread. Hannah then adds that she was once hungry early in the morning, and no, that's not just a quirky trope for her, it's a surprise plotter that we'll find out later. Anyways, the day ends and they part in ways to go home, but not before Hannah invites Miko to go to a lingerie store together with her for some goddamn. Miko then notices that her keychain is missing, and apparently it's so important to her that she has to go back to school and find it. Miko finds a keychain under the teacher's table and Miko leaves, and surprise surprise, it's raining. She gets a text from Hannah asking if she's okay, when suddenly her phone glitches. She drops her phone in surprise and picks it up only to see that that little glitch is gone. She starts to think that she's mega tired, and not even a full second passes until she's proven totally wrong when she sees a large ghost of a woman. The woman then asks Miko if she can see her, and Miko just straight up ignores her. Miko continues to tap away their phone and the ghost thinks that she can't see her, so she goes away, which leaves our main character to finally let out a well-deserved "what the heck was that?" The next morning, the handprint is back on her mirror again, and by now you can probably guess what it is. Yeah, it's a ghost. This new ghost of a man doesn't really do anything to hurt her, kind of invades her personal space while also asking if she can see him. Again, she pretends that she doesn't care and goes to find some salt. She starts to fill a bowl with like a lot of salt, and Miko also starts looking into exorcism supplies but figures we'll try this salt first, it's way cheaper anyway. But it doesn't work. The ghost reappears, this time under her, freaking, and Miko just ignores it and decides he should try using prayer beads next time. The next day the ghost is gone, the handprint doesn't reappear in the mirror, and she doesn't see another ghost on the way to school. It must have just been a bad day, she starts to think, until she sees the ghost of a dead student who was polite enough to greet her with a good morning. Eventually Miko encounters more ghosts. While at school, she sees a severed head ghost inside of one of the lockers in a changing room, as Hannah asked her to check because apparently she doesn't like creepy stuff. She even had Miko reach for her phone there, which made the ghost roar at her. Miko keeps up her poker face but falls down to the ground. After closing the locker door back in their classroom, Hannah then approaches Miko and says that she accidentally took off her underwear later and didn't put it on. Miko doesn't really mind Hannah's shenanigans because it distracts her from like the bloody ghosts and stuff, but she doesn't really want to go back to the locker room with her anymore. For some fairly understandable reasons, a new ghost appears out of Hana's desk, and this ghost that searches itself to Hana in a very awkward way. Mika then pretends to faint and pushes the desk away until it reaches out, so she tries to drag Hana to the clinic. Hana thinks that it's just the anemia kicking in again, but gets suspicious when Miko drags her away way too fast. Unfortunately for Hana, the ghost catches up and latches itself onto her. They still go to the clinic but find out that the nurse isn't there. Hana warns Miko about being anemic and takes the stethoscope to check her own heartbeat before moving on to Miko. Miko then tells her that clinic tools are riddled with bacteria, so she should disinfect her hands. She then picks up the alcohol, hoping that it doesn't need to get the ghost away from his chest. It just makes things worse as a head pops up out of the clump of arms that was holding onto. Hana then proceeds to use the stethoscope under Miko's shirt. Of course, the ghost also starts to reach towards her, and she starts accepting her fate until the school nurse arrives. The ghost seems to have taken a liking to the nurse and latches onto her instead, all while Miko and Hana get scalded before getting absolutely kicked out. Hunter then calls down to her, asking her to line up again. The line she was in was filled with ghosts who were lining up to get eaten by a bigger ghost, which is cool. Hana drags her to the line, and they have no choice but to get right to the back. They do still get to buy the donuts they want, which is cool, with Miko buying 3 prayer bead donuts. While walking home, they find a stray kitten inside a box. Hunter then picks it up and posts it on social media, asking who will want to adopt this adorable little baby. Mikhail gets relieved at seeing something cute for once before realizing that there's also a ghost in the box. They leave and wait at the park for anyone willing to adopt the cat with a ghost tagging along. They got 2 candidates, one really scary looking man and some nice little gentlemen over there. Hana is immediately willing to give the kid into the nice looking men, though Miko stops her after seeing that he's surrounded by a malevolent cat spirits. Though confused, the man accepts her decision and walks away with the ghost now following behind him. Mika then picks up the kitten and gives it to the scary looking man. The man tells her that he'll take care of him before walking away. 2 cat spirits with 2 tails appear on each of his shoulders. As he leaves later on, we find out that the man used to take care of 2 cats, but they had already passed on along with his wife. Miko rides a bus on the way to a cafe to meet with Hana. On the bus, she meets a ghost with hydra-like heads that starts really annoying her. Then she requests a stop at the next station. However, she stays seated and just waits for the ghost to get out. The bus moves on and she texts Hana that she could be late, but Hana says it's fine because she also got on the wrong train. Apparently she soon arrives to the cafe where they're about to meet, although I'm still isn't there. While waiting, she sees a man that gets haunted by a female ghost that tells him she loves him. The man sees her looking at him and smiles back, which makes the ghosts overly jealous. The ghost walks over to Miko, who then manages to convince the ghost that the man in front of her is super opposite to her type. Hana then arrives as a guy approaches her and starts hitting on her. Miko quickly tries to avoid him as the guy's girlfriend arrives. Has a lot of dude ghosts just to Miko then figures out that both of them are probably cheating on one another. Later on, Miko manages to buy 4 real prayer beads while Hana buys a rabbit plushie. Miko then lies, saying that prayer beads are going to be the new trend before giving to Hana. After remember that grumpy little ghost, Hana then says she'll pay back Miko by treating her to a butt bun tasty. However, they both have to go through a dark alley that's filled with ghosts. Miko gets scared at first but eventually relaxes when she realizes the prayer beads work until she meets this more powerful ghost that breaks her prayer beads. Hana notices that Miko stopped and goes back. Miko then steps right into the ghost in an attempt to ignore it and reassures Hana that everything's fine. Conveniently, she sees that Hana dropped her rabbit plushie right by the powerful ghost. Not wanting Hana to get near to the ghost, Miko quickly tries to get it. Her head phases through the ghost's body and she comes out utterly terrified, which Hana interprets as Miko being upset about the prayer beads. Miko literally has to hold her back from going back to the shop where they bought it and they finally got their butt buns. Hana then feels bad about Miko breaking the prayer beads, so she took her to a fortune teller named